What's good, guys? It's Compass finally coming back at you with a team building guide for this esports season, trying to help y'all qualify for whatever region you're trying to qualify for. You know, we got qualifiers all throughout this whole entire summer, all the way until September, so it's going to be a whole lot of fun. Let's just get straight into this. This is my team. We'll talk a little bit more about each player here in a minute when we get into them. But this is the type of lineup that I am planning on running for the near future. And if we go to my pitchers, I am running Kiba, Krill, and Izitsu. Not pitching Zenzai too much, we'll go into her in a minute. But I also got Oda as a backup. As you saw, we had Oda on the team, so he also pitches. We'll go into all that. But yeah, let's go into each player and who I think is useful and can be used. I mean, of course, it all comes down to your personal preference. If you prefer one player, if you think that you play super well with the player, go with them over anything. It's all about your personal preference and personal feel. So it's all subjective. This is only my opinion, but these are some of the top players, what the top players use, and some players that I personally like myself. Alright, so if we get to the pitchers, which is the most important part, as you can see, it is 75 cap. That's what we expect most of the tourneys to be at. If they're a little bit over that, I would just make sure to upgrade positions. We'll make sure to talk about high cost positions in a little bit. But you should always start out by picking your pitching rotation. Of course, everybody up here above 30 cost is like really good. Super hard to hit for absolutely anybody. Mio, Maoman, Unkai, Kiba, we've talked about them in the past. They've got the heavy fastball. Super hard to hit. They can pitch on no stamina if you're good enough to do all that. But that's kind of tough to do at times. But they're all the best pitchers in the game, and they're the ones that stop the highest ranks from scoring. Of course, you can spam Atsu and Doe, which they are also pretty unhittable if you are spamming them. But you can't pitch them with no stamina, so if you're spending this much on an Atsu or a Doe, they run out of stamina, you're facing multiple S ranks in a row. It's just not going to work out as well as if you have, let's say, an Unkai, and he's out of stamina, but you're running up against S ranks. You could still pitch him with no stamina, and it's not going to be the end of the world. It's not going to be as good as him with stamina, but of course he's still going to be better than most other pitchers. If we come down here, these people, in my opinion, a little bit too expensive, but Hoshi's pretty good. Has a forkball kind of like Suzukaze and has a bat. Has Tyrant. The thing is, the runners in scoring position is pretty bad. Doesn't have Iron Ball. Kind of just too expensive to compete with these people up here. Can't really pick up too much other talent whenever you have Hoshi on your team. Aoba's pretty good, but if you are going Aoba with the special slider, does have Iron Ball and Dr. K, which is nice, and that slider moves a lot. Pretty new user friendly, but I would just go Otani. Doesn't have that Iron Ball over it, but just a little bit faster. That sweeper also has cutter, so it breaks later. And Otani also plays in the outfield pretty good. Plays a nice corner outfielder. Has fastball boost, one of the best bats in the game, honestly. Pretty worth it for 25, but it's just kind of hard to pick up Otani and pick up a staff around him because you can't pitch any of these dudes other than these four people on no stamina with a lot of success. So you kind of, if you pick up one of these dudes, you have to have another pitcher that you can go to, in my opinion. So it's just kind of hard at 25 cost. It is doable, but you gotta pick up somebody around the 15 cost, like a Phoebus or below. But Mamoru Ukari, Afro Ukari, he's pretty good. He has that nice curveball. We talked about him in the past. Momentum, Iron Ball. Nice control and stamina. Also got the nice bat too with the 92 power. Pretty fast. Got the rally, which helps him out in the third inning. Clutch, slugger, sprayer. All the abilities you pretty much need. Runners in scoring position, pretty nice. If you just spam that curveball, it's pretty hard for most people to hit, but top players are going to get their hands on it. They're going to send it off. Pretty much everybody probably lower than 30. Yeah, definitely lower than 30. If you pitch them to a top player and they know what they're doing, they're probably at least getting 2 or 3 runs. So at that point, you just gotta hope that you bat better. Asa's pretty good, pretty new user friendly. That forkball is pretty nice with that gold carver. Bullet helps her fastball come in. She also has iron ball, but somebody gets a hold of that forkball, they could just send it off. It's not a particularly hard pitch to hit. So, I mean, she's a good option. She also has Slugger and Rally and Victor with 75 power, so that's all pretty nice. Definitely a pretty usable option, but I mean, not my favorite, but definitely if you want to go with her, I think that she's a good option. Suzukaze is kind of like Hoshi. Their forkballs kind of like move in like a diagonal direction, kind of like this. But she has a better runners in scoring position and gripper, which is going to help out the fastball speed or the pitch speed whenever it's coming into the same side. So she throws left. I think if it comes in inside to a left-hand batter, it's going to be faster, or a right-hand batter. I'm not sure. I think it's a right-hand batter. But can kind of hit, not really. I mean, doesn't have any slugging abilities, doesn't have clinical, but has push hit. So, I mean, if you're in a pinch, they could pinch hit. If you really don't have anybody, but I wouldn't recommend it. Suzukaze doesn't get a lot of playing time. Daigugetsu has been seeing a lot of playing time recently. He has that A heater, he has Iron Ball, he has Tyrant, he has 99 stamina, so whenever you're using him as a reliever, even if he doesn't have the reliever stat, you can still pitch him for quite a while. Also has the Slugger, does not have good contact or run speed at all, but has very high power with Slugger ability, so if you get your hands on a fastball, it'll be gone with him. The big drawback to him is the low control, so you really gotta be on your game with the 2-tap. And Meatball, which if you aren't on your game with the 2-tap, he's really gonna make you pay. He's gonna throw a meatball straight down the middle, so it's not what you like to see out of a pitcher, but if you're on your game, you can get past that. I also think Phoebus is a nice option. He's pretty underrated. He has F recovery, which is not what you want to see, but at least he plays first base and third base both pretty well, so he's still providing value for you, even whenever he's not pitching. He's one of the better bats, pretty okay hitting, nice power, pull hit is nice, doesn't have slugger or anything, but the power is more than enough, has clutch, has B throwing, which helps at third base. He's a pretty nice third base, if I do say so myself. Only thing is, he's not that fast, but the fielding definitely helps him out. If you spam that low fastball, it comes in pretty fast and it rises pretty fast. It's a very difficult pitch to hit. I personally used him quite a few times in the warm-ups, and I was able to take out some pretty good players by just kind of spamming that low pitch. It's a very hard pitch to really try to get a feel for and see if it's coming into the zone or not, especially if you're dotting up. But if you mistime a pitch and it comes too much into the zone, you could pretty much kiss it goodbye, because he doesn't have iron ball or a heavy fastball, anything like that. And if you mess up too many times with him, he's got that hot head, so he's not going to be pitching well. But he has a good stamina and control, so shouldn't be too big of a deal, especially if you use 2-tap. Stamina shouldn't be too much of a problem. The splitter's also a nice weapon for him. Allen's a nice option. Didn't see a lot of playtime a lot earlier into this game's life cycle, just because he cost pretty much the same as a lot of the top tier pitchers, and he wasn't that. But at 12 costs, he's a pretty nice player. Charm is, I think it boosts something to do with hitters. I think it's like plus 10 contact and power. I think we talked about that the other day. Dr. K always helps boost up the pitches if you're on 2 strikes. If you want to learn more about the abilities, go check out my first team building guide video. I talked about it more there, but all these abilities help Battler. Of course, it counters Menace, which we'll talk about. A heater, really nice. Just doesn't have that Iron Ball, is susceptible to getting the ball just smacked off him in a long ball. But you just kind of want to spam that power curve. That special fastball isn't great. It comes in fast, but if you throw it too many times and they're expecting it, they can pretty much send it away. But he can play the outfield, not the greatest. He's not the greatest corner outfielder, but he can play it. He's a pretty alright hitter, but easy out and grounder really hurt. Also F runner doesn't help, and E stealing. Both of those, the runner doesn't help him around the bases as well, even though he has that C run speed. But he does have clutch, so he can hit bombs. Always nice. Rebukai has G recovery, so he has S stamina, but because you're using him on Tyrant, he's going to be used as a reliever a lot of the time. So he's going to be losing stamina a lot faster than, let's say, somebody like Phoebus. And then the recovery, you're not really getting much value out of him other than his bat. He is a good bat. He has slugger and really high power, but does have blunder. I think blunder is just a fielder ability, which will only affect him whenever he's a pitcher. But he has good abilities. The Carver, his Shudo is really deadly if you spam it. He has Iron Ball and Tyrant. It's just that you're going to be using him as a reliever if you want best value out of him, and that's going to make his stamina drain a lot faster. And then you combine it with G recovery, he's not going to be pitching for you very often. So I don't know how I feel about him. I think he's usable, but not... I wouldn't feel comfortable going with him, because if you're relying on 2 pitchers against the best and Ribukai's really struggling to get his stamina up, it's just not a good situation. Krill has been a must pick, kind of. I've seen him on majority of teams. His pitching isn't that great. He only throws 148, no Iron Ball or anything, no type of abilities. Stuff isn't that great, but has that bullet, so can pitch to the lower ranks. But the main thing about him is he's a great fielder, great hitter. 80s and all the hit, power, run speed, 4 trajectory, has slugger, sprayer, menace. Menace takes down the stamina and control of a pitcher whenever they're on deck and at bat, so that always helps. He's just pretty much an athlete. I mean, he hits really well, he runs really well, he throws the ball really well. Has E at every position, which he could play every position too. He's a util guy, so I mean, he's one of the best outfielders in the game. Corner outfielders, I wouldn't use him at center field. Nice first base, nice decent catcher with C catcher. Nice third base. I would just use him at any position that isn't like absolutely necessary. Like shortstop and center field, only places I wouldn't care to put him, but I think he works best in corner outfield and like second base, because second base is kind of weak. We'll go into that. Seen a little bit of Yakumas, pretty good catcher, has nice power, clinical, also nice slider and fork. I don't think he's the best option. Hakoto and Majuro are basically in the same. They're kind of like Doe, where you could spam the cutter. I talked about cutter spam in my pitching guide. If you want to go check out how to do that, I would say Hakuto is more consistent in that he's better whenever he's just on a regular mood, just because his cutter is 1 higher. But whenever you're on like pink mood and that cutter's boosted, plus that cutter and Iron Ball ability for Majuro, it can be pretty deadly. But the thing is, there's a lot more right-handed hitters, and that cutter is going over to the right-hand direction because he throws right-handed. So his cutter is liable to getting pull hitted if you aren't careful, compared to Hokuto, where if you are pitching kind of wild with him, it's up to the sprayer and the push hit, which is much more likely to not go out. Even though he doesn't have iron ball, he still is susceptible to the long ball. Not to say that you're not going to be giving up bombs with him. I'm just saying it's a lot easier to give up a pull hit than a push hit for a bomb. So I would just think about that. Lancelot is probably one of the better low cost pitchers, just because has that A heater, nice pitch velocity, iron ball. Dr. K with pretty nice stuff with that curveball and that screwball. Has a splitter to throw off that fastball, and has Tyrant, which we just talked about. Pretty nice. Also has a nice bat on him. Pretty nice. Also been seeing a lot of Red. Red is known for his fastball. Pretty much don't use his stuff other than his fastball because there ain't much of it unless you're in the runners in scoring position. But does have that iron ball, does have nice stamina. His pitch is pretty fast, but his bat is really what takes him to the next level and what makes him worth it at 5 costs if you want to go with him. He has clinical, which is going to help you contact hit. He's got the speed to play small ball, but he also has that slugger and 85 power, so if you want to hit a long ball with him, you can. I've been seeing people use Kariba a little bit, but I think that there's a better option out there that's being kind of underrated. But of course his slow curveball and fork are really nice with Dr. K and Crossfire. Runners in scoring position A. If you decide to use them, you probably won't be disappointed, but can also be used as a pinch runner if you really run out of people due to that ace stealing. But yeah, I mean, pretty alright pitcher. Yamaguchi, pretty new user friendly, can throw that fork ball. Has runners in scoring position B, which is going to help out, but just pretty much that fork ball is just strong. For 3 costs, I think the person you have to go with if you want to go 3 costs, there's 2 people, which one of them is the underrated person. We'll talk about the underrated person who I haven't seen used a lot that could be considered close to Kariba is Kagarazaka has that nice curveball just like Kariba, which is the main weapon. I mean, pretty much that's it. Just has the curveball. So yeah, it doesn't have the pinch running ability, but I mean the pinch running ability isn't that good. But One is what most people use for 3 costs because he has iron ball. He has only 2 less levels on his curveball, so it's still pretty nice, but also has a heater with slightly less pitch velocity, but that A heater takes it to the next level. Kinda hard fastball to hit, but wouldn't all these people that I'm talking about in the lower levels, I wouldn't pitch them to really anyone above 55 PR because they would kind of send them off to the moon. Battler, of course, we talked about that. 2 cost, you can go Taramoto for 2 costs. He has Iron Ball, but I think that you are better off going with people for 1 cost. The first one I will recommend is Izitsu. He has Iron Ball, which is the only ability, but for 1 cost, pretty much can't ask for more than that from a starter. Only has 50 stamina, but whenever you put him at starter, shouldn't be too much of a big deal. I would just pitch them against like the lower level competition, but he's a lower level PR killer. But the other one I would like to talk about is my boy Shiroyama. He's basically the reliever version of Izitsu. Slightly less movement on his vertical slider, but also has that special fastball. Has that B heater. I think his pitching is a little bit faster, but he runs out of stamina a lot quicker because he is a reliever. But yeah, those 2 guys are kind of like low PR killers. Another pitcher, wouldn't really use him at pitcher that I would say is good is Zenzai. Has that S run speed, B stealing, B runner, and can pitch whenever you're facing a low PR person and when she's on pink, which is a lot to ask for, but whenever it does happen, it just gives you another nice option with somebody that is just a nice pinch runner in the game if you need one. But honestly, I wouldn't really look for hitters around here. There is some good hitters in the pitchers, but whenever you start getting like 40 cap and you gotta spend like 30 or something on one of your pitchers, or even 40, it's just not worth it to spend it on hitters that really don't field. Of course, Creel is one of the best hitters that plays every single position, so definitely worth it in my opinion. But whenever you gotta fill out your pitchers, it's just not worth it to spend like, let's say, 3 on a pitcher that doesn't really pitch that good but that has a bat, when you could go pick up, let's say, a first baseman that can hit almost as good but doesn't take up any of your pitching cap. Alright, and to our catchers, of course you got Daisuke. Daisuke is always a great option for 9 cost. He is expensive, but it is kind of hard to fill out the fielders in my opinion, because I think there's so many great low cost fielders, so many great low cost positions you could go for. If you want to go for Dieta, he has Menace, he has Slugger, S Power, B Clutch. All makes him a great hitter, plus that A catcher, which is the best in the game. If you're running a fastball pitcher and you want to pitch him on no stamina, I would highly recommend picking up a catcher with at least B catcher at the very minimum, if not A catcher. A catcher upgrades their control and their stamina. I can't remember the exact numbers, I'm not a numbers nerd, but B stamina does the same thing, but just slightly less. But I like to run A catcher whenever I'm running my fastball guys, which is Kiba right now. Kiba is the cheapest. But Suwano has clinical and also has A catcher. Just a little bit expensive at 5. Not the cheapest A catcher that you could go for. Yakuman 3 also has A catcher, but doesn't have that clinical. Has Heckler, which is alright, but for 5, I mean, it's kind of just too much. I mean, he can't really hit. You're spending 5 on somebody that can't hit. And to go to the 4 catchers, this is like the lowest you'll find an A catcher in. Almost all these guys are A catcher. Fumito Dieta is a B catcher with Heckler. He's pretty nice because he has clinical. Kaminara, B catcher, has Slugger. Can also be pretty nice too, but in terms of the A catchers, I would say it's up to Rokudo, who has Heckler, which if runners are in scoring position, it will decrease the contact and the power of the batter by 5. Compared to Makita, who has Legend and Low Hit and Pull Hit, which are very situational. I was put on to Makita by YG, which of course if you're tuned into the esport, you know who YG is. He's one of the best American players, but when you're spending 4 cost on a player, it's just not worth it to me to throw away a hitting ability. Like, Rokudo can't really hit at all. It has bunt, doesn't really have power, not the great contact that you want to see. The run speed isn't nice. The Heckler, it's good and all, but it's like, you're really spending 4 cost on somebody that can't hit just so they could have Heckler. And if you really want to go that route, I would recommend Hoshizora, who also plays the outfield pretty well and has B catcher and clinical, so they can contact hit. But that's besides the point. With Makita, has Legend, so if you stick her at the back of the lineup and you have a chance to walk the game off with the 9th batter, I mean, it always helps that you have her in your back pocket. Has that Legend ability, which will make you hit walk-offs against anybody. But if you're facing somebody that's not a fastball pitcher, that low hit and that pull hit, if you get it right, you could really send anything off. It really creates a lot of power with 52. I really like using her. I didn't like her at first, but also has that nice arm. But if you get that legend ability going, it's really nice. But if you're behind, I would just pinch hit for her and stick somebody else that has catcher in. If you go down, you get to the B catchers. Hoshizora, I would say, is the best of the B catchers just because of the clinical. Has nice speed and everything, can also play in the outfield in a pinch if you need to. Dokkan has a bit of power in B catcher, but I would say you could spend one cost less. I think these people are pretty underrated, but Komoto and Hido, I see a lot of Hido because he has 85 power in B catcher. Of course, you don't want to see easy out and left hand pitchers, but B catcher one cost with power, can't really ask for more than that. So I mean, really underrated option if you really want to go cheap with your catcher. Other catcher, I mean, Nekogami is a pinch runner. Wouldn't really throw him at catcher unless you're in a pinch because C catcher isn't best and G throwing isn't that good, but is a morale player, which morale boosts up your contact and your power by +5 if your team is in a good mood. You need an extra one of those because you get a free one of those. But if you play another free player who I will recommend you play, you got to pick up somebody that's probably one cost that has morale. And I think that Nekogami is probably the best just because almost A run speed, B stealing, B runner also provides value outside of that. But let's go on to the first base. First base is actually really stacked. I mean, if you want to go expensive, you can always go Takamoto. Has clinical, slugger, sprayer, always known as one of the best hitters, 96 power. Sendo's always a great option, 90 hit, or 91 hit, 90 power with Zealous, which is going to help on the first pitch with clinical, slugger, and sprayer, and pinch too. But also has Blunder, which is not going to help at first base whenever runners are in scoring position, going to make her more prone to errors. And also has that Fanned ability, which is going to decrease contact whenever they're on 2 outs. If you want to go cheap, I would say Gundo. I don't really care for Gundo, but Leader is the gold morale ability, so if you want to go him, he's a nice outfielder actually, but he doesn't have any of the hitting abilities, doesn't have clinical, doesn't have slugger. That's why I don't personally like him, but Leader's a really nice ability to have. And he's also a nice fielder. If you can make the hitting work, I would say he's a good option. But at the same price, you could get Onawake, who also has morale. Doesn't have the leader, but has morale, which is still the +5 instead of the +10. Has the homer ability. Only thing is he has the blunder like Sendo. So if people are in running position, runners in scoring position, he's more likely to drop it. But he has a C catch, so it's a little bit less likely than Sendo. But 6 cost, he has Gold Homer, which is gold version of Slugger. Sprayer, high hit, pretty nice power, pretty nice option. Ochai, for one less, pretty nice option too, has clinical, so if you need to play small ball, he has the run speed and clinical to really get that small ball going, really get your contact hit going, but also has Slugger and Menace, which is going to help with the pitcher's stamina, the opposing pitcher's stamina, and also he can hit bombs if you really need to, has that 4 trajectory and that 80 power. Also one of the better fielders at first base. A lot of these players are pretty good at fielding in first base. Another person that's pretty good for the same price as Kushida, has really high contact, doesn't have clinical or anything, but really high contact and pretty nice run speed, also a nice fielder at first base, can play third base, not really that well, but pretty usable, but a little bit lacking in the power, 75, but has slugger, pull hit, low hit. It really makes up, a clutch really makes up in the power department, but isn't assured to hit a bomb every time like somebody like Onawake is, because the slightly lower power. At the same price, you could get Maximum Christine, which has a lot lower contact, but if you're fine with that, not as good of a fielder. He has Menace, he has Slugger with a lot better power, so he's going to be more likely to hit bombs for you than, let's say, somebody like Ashita or even Ochai, but has a much smaller PCI and a lot worse fielding. For 4 costs, I like these two 4 cost first basemen. I think that they're a really nice option. I'm currently using Daichiman right now. I think he's really good, but Daichiman has a clutch, so helps out his power, Slugger, Menace, and Morale, so you don't need to have a Morale player. Slugger and Menace with 85 power. Not the worst contact, 55, almost a C, halfway there to C, plus that A clutch. If somebody's in runners in scoring position, he's gonna have a nice boost. But the other one is Edogawa, who has slightly worse power, worse contact, but has a lot more abilities working in his favor. Also has Morale. Both those players have Morale, so you don't got to worry about picking up another Morale player. But has Slugger, pull hit, setter, so you want to put him at the beginning of the your batting order, so they get that setter ability. Setter is if nobody's on base, they get a boost, so you definitely want that. But Slugger and pull hit definitely help a lot. Rally kicks in the third if you're losing, so they're going to be first in the lineup, so Rally's going to be kicking in a lot for you if you're down. But I mean, I would say that they're both pretty equal. It's just personal preference who you want on your team. I would say Edogawa's slightly better fielder. I personally went with Daichiman because Edogawa's abilities are slightly more specialized compared to Daichiman. And I wouldn't really recommend any of these guys. I see a little bit of Okino, has Slugger, nice power, but I mean, for one more, you could pick up somebody like Daichiman, who I feel is just a lot better version of them. But if you get to the 1 cost, you got Sanbanmatsu, which I mean, not a good fielder, doesn't have good contact, but for 1 cost, one of the better sluggers in the game, so pretty nice. And of course, you gotta have Kawahashi on the team just because of that morale ability. Can pinch run if you really need her to, because almost has run speed of B. But other than that, I mean, you just have her for morale. If you really need her to play first base, you can. We go to second base. Second base is a position that historically a lot of people have cheaped out on. You could use Kirill here if you really want to, if you got outfielders you would rather use, but I would say most people are using like Saburi and Nomi in these spots, who are both pretty decent defenders, both have clinical, both run pretty decently fast. Both are 1 cost, but if you move up, you got Shiohime, who has Slugger, not the best power, but A clutch helps out. Nice Slugger for 2 cost at second base, and can also play a little bit of defense. But if you want to spend a little bit more at second base, you could pick up somebody like Hebishima, who has Glover and Morale, and pretty decent defensive stats. Pretty nice hitting stats, but no clinical, no slugger or anything like that. You got Kakujo, who can hit bombs, but not the best fielder at second base, but also can play third base and shortstop pretty alright. I would say she's a lot better at third base than shortstop because of that arm strength, but I mean, she's a pretty nice hitter. I don't know if I would use her, but the player I would go for if I were to go for a 3 cost second baseman is Suzaki, because can also play that shortstop and that third baseman pretty well, a lot better than Kakujo. Has clinical and sprayer with not the worst power, so if you're facing somebody that isn't like a fastball pitcher, somebody that's a little bit lower tier pitcher, you can hit their ball pretty far on the power hit. Or if you're facing a fastball pitcher, of course you can hit for clinical. Of course, has that Glover, which is going to help you field better. Is going to help her speed whenever ball is hit towards her and help her diving out. So always nice to have in the middle infield. If you want to spend one more, you could have Seiki. I've seen a little bit of Seiki. Has clinical, setter, Glover, rally, all stuff we talked about. Clutch, I don't know when that activates, but that's also like rally. Pretty alright fielder with A stealing and B runner, so pretty nice, but I would probably go for Mine if I'm spending 4, but it's just a lot to spend on a second baseman that can't really hit bombs. B runner, he's pretty quick. He has Glover, he has clinical, he has sprayer. He can hit bombs against the lower tier pitchers and hit contact against the higher tier pitchers, but he's pretty expensive for a second base, but he's a pretty good defender at second base, especially with Glover. Going on to third base, I mean, you got Oda. Oda's really expensive, but of course has the pitching ability that we talked about earlier. I'm using them in my pitching lineup. Has Iron Ball, 99 stamina, A heater, throws the ball pretty fast. Pretty decent pitcher, but also has slugger, sprayer, and chaser, which is a pretty rare ability that you need to counter the Atsu, the Doe, the Hakoto, the Majuro, the whatever spam that you come across that is giving you trouble. Chaser gives you a lot better chance to hit that, especially with the sprayer ability that makes it where you could push it a lot better. 98 power, almost 100 power, pretty nice. Really nice third base stats, but also could play the corner outfield pretty alright. Other than that, I mean, you see a little bit of Tojo. Has almost S power, pretty nice fielder out there at third base. Has slugger and sprayer, so she's pretty nice for 6 cost. Also see Sacho, which has low contact, but pretty nice fielder at third base. Has slugger, has high power, just low contact. If you come down here, you get Takano, who's pretty nice, even in the outfield with a slow jump. That 97 run speed helps out a lot, but has a lot of abilities that hold him back with the F stealing, the F clutch, the easy out. Runs the bases pretty well, but if you try to steal with him, it might not turn out well. Has that eager for the first pitch. Really divisive player. Controversial player. Some people do not like him at all. Some people like him. I tend to rather like him. He's somebody that you just got to try out for yourself. See if you find success. Lifter Tsukami has Homer, 90 power. Not the best contact, but Homer 90 power is pretty nice to have. Not the best fielder, but usable. Bando, I've been seeing a little bit of Bando. Bando, that arm strength really hurts. I would probably use him more at first. It's hard to use him in the field. I forgot that he has a G first base. I mean, you don't need... He's usable at both positions, but he's really going to be struggling out there in the field. I mostly see him at DH, but he has sprayer. He has alright power. He has menace. I mean, I wouldn't personally use him. But who I would recommend, who I think is the best third base in the game, 0 cost Ome. He has clinical, so you could contact hit. Has G clutch, which I mean hurts, but I mean he's no cost and he still keeps that clinical, which really helps. If bases are loaded, he has slammer, so he could power hit. The only thing is he has buzzkill, which so him, if you have him and Kawahashi on a team, the morale just completely cancels out. So if you don't want to pick up another morale player, but you want that morale boost and you want another third baseman, just kick Ome off the team. But Ome is a super useful character for 0 cost. He's easily the best 0 cost character because of that clinical ability. And just takes one more person like a Nekogami to add another morale person and actually get that boost. So you can get that +5 in those areas and still get to use Ome. But that's who I use at third base. You get to shortstop, one of your most important defensive positions. You got Izuyoi, who's the best defensive shortstop with that Glover. Has clinical, has Joker, has ace stealer. Can't go wrong with her. Can't power hit, but has line drive. So if you power hit, she's probably gonna hit a gapper, and Joker's gonna help out a lot if she's on base. Kirasaki's also nice too. Has clinical, also the same as Izuyoi. Can hit for a little bit more power, but probably just gonna be a gapper shot. I would probably go Izuyoi over Kirasaki at 5, but has that ace stealing with almost 90 speed and a nice arm. So I mean, it's just up to personal preference who you want to go with, but both of them are pretty nice. Tomizawa can hit bombs, but I mean, I would say that you need the defense. Kazanagi is a nice player with a bunch of nice abilities. Not going to go through all those abilities, but has almost B in everything. Most important part, can play any part in the infield except third base. So a lot of people use him at first base. Not really too much of a shortstop. Kamira is pretty nice. Doesn't have any like clinical or slugger, so not really going to be hitting as well as you would like her to, but can kind of hit those gap shots. But the main thing is she's a nice fielder with that A fielding, the A run speed, the A strength. Has menace too, so gonna also help out with the stamina. Komasaka, pretty nice, has a lot of versatility, can only not play that first base in the infield, and has that clinical, but 4 cost for somebody that can't really power hit. I mean, you could go up and just get like Izuyoi or Kirasaki. If you go one down, you could get Pretty Boy Takarazaka, who pretty much does the same thing, just doesn't have the clinical ability. Plays all the infield positions except first base, and also plays the outfield. I mean, pretty nice center field option if we're being real. Can definitely play that center field. A clutch helps a lot, but doesn't really have the slugger, the clinical, or anything like that, so hits a lot worse than expected. A nice shortstop that I like to use, and I see a lot of other people using, is Zanzu. Has B clutch, so if runners are in scoring position, all that. Has that clinical ability, and then plus those stats, those fielding stats, they're really nice. He has a strong arm. He's pretty fast. If you want to go one less and give up that clutch, I mean, Pink has a little bit less air resistance, but has that clinical too. Just has G clutch, so you gotta start him at the beginning of the lineup or just put him at the very end of the lineup. I have him at like 8 in the lineup just in case. But that clinical doesn't go away with the clutch, so I mean, it's always usable. It's never the end of the world. We're going lower than that. I don't think anyone can compare to Pink. I mean, if you're spending less than this, I mean, it's going to be kind of rough. I'm not going to lie. It's just going to be a rough time trying to field. I see people using Morikawa. I'm not high on him. He's an alright fielder. He's a pretty good fielder. Has that chaser ability that people are looking for, but doesn't have slugger or sprayer. So I just don't feel like he takes advantage of that chaser very well. Has B clutch, which helps him out. Has B runner. Pretty nice option, but I'd just rather have the extra defense in Pink. I mean, plus that clinical ability also helps. He just doesn't have clinical either. I mean, it's whatever with him. But yeah, I mean, shortstop, kind of got to have a nice fielder. Azuma, also another 1-cost morale player. Can play shortstop, outfield, second base in a pinch for you. Also has 75 power and B clutch, so can hit bombs against the lower tier pitchers, but much more of a boom or bust player compared to Nekogami, who you're gonna put him on the base pass. He's gonna get some value running. I mean, the Azuma value is definitely not guaranteed. But we go to outfield. Toy, you can use Toy. Toy's really good. I've been seeing a little bit of Toy. Definitely the best fielder in the game. At center field, you definitely want somebody good to go chase those pop flies and stuff. So he's got all those type of abilities. He's a nice contact hitter. He's got that slugger, so he's a slugger. Not the best slugger in the world, but he makes it work. But yeah, he's just super good. Also can play first base and catcher if you really need to. Wouldn't really play him at catcher or first base because kind of just a waste if you're not just playing him in center field. But Vanguard, nice corner fielder. You might be scared of the fielding stats and the running and everything, but he's one of the best hitters in the game with slugger, sprayer, menace, almost S power, almost A hitting. Um But, I mean, you just gotta stick him in the corner and pray for the best. I mean, he's not the worst fielder in the world. A lot of people make him work with him. Another nice center fielder is Kagemi. Low contact G clutch, you have to start him in the lineup, but has rally, which helps out whenever you start him in the lineup. Has slugger, sprayer with that chaser ability, so he actually takes advantage of that chaser ability with that slugger and that sprayer. Has the B stealing, so if he gets on base, if you don't hit that bomb first off with him, he's still gonna be nice stealing to second base and everything. He's pretty fast. The thing is with him, he's fast in the outfield because of that 75 speed and that 80 fielding, but he has A throwing and he has laser, so he has a really strong arm with 70 strength whenever he's playing that center field, so he can keep those base runners at bay. For one less, you got Saga. He's got nice ability, or nice just on paper stats. A lot better contact than Kagemi. If you want more contact option, Saga's your option, but he's a slightly worse fielder than Kagemi. Has a little bit, he's a little bit faster on paper and a little bit stronger, but those abilities really help Kagemi, but has that clinical, which Kagemi doesn't have. So if you aren't comfortable power hitting as much, I would say go Saga. Nanai's a tough fielder, worse than Vanguard, but has slugger, sprayer, and rally with pretty decent stats. I've seen people use him. I wouldn't personally use him. Another really good player is Victor Kohlberg. He's really nice clinical hitter, but also has that menace, so helps out with that decreasing pitcher stamina. Has a really high contact and really nice run speed. High enough power where he can hit bombs against you know, the lower tier pitchers and everything, but mostly just a clinical hitter, but a really nice clinical hitter. Can play center fielder if you really need him to. He's not the worst center fielder, but he's an elite tier corner outfielder, definitely. I've seen people use Tanoji, doesn't have any hitting abilities. I don't really care for him too much at 4 costs, but he's a nice center fielder, nice fielder with 83 run speed, 82 fielding. Also has a strong arm and everything. Can hit and everything, just not the best at it. Murasame can't hit at all, but for 4 costs, she's the best outfielder you're gonna get other than Toy. Has that laser ability that we talked about earlier, plus that Glover ability, which is gonna help her run faster when there's a pop fly. But whenever she's in the center field, she's just really nice. Almost S in every single fielding ability. It's just whenever she gets up to bat, just never works out well. Shibuya has almost S power, menace, you know. Pretty nice corner outfielder, but the first base, it's just, or can also play first base. It's just that doesn't have any slugger, doesn't have sprayer, doesn't have clinical, but has the power to kind of make up for that, almost S power. So if you want a slugger and the corner outfielder, Shibuya might be it. Hino is of like the go-to DH because almost S in hit, power, and run. Has clinical and sprayer. Unfortunately, no slugger, which hurts, but that A stealing, the A clutch, perfect DH. Does everything you want a DH to do. Hits well, runs well, but that G catching, that blender, you never want to put him in the outfield. Never want to put him in the outfield. Only put him at DH, but they are a go to DH for 3. Going down to 2, Shido. Shido has clinical and Glover and runner. Definitely the cheapest center fielder I would go with. Has the hitting to stay in the game and has the fielding to be usable in the center field. She's going to track down those balls. I mean, she's not going to throw anyone out, but it's not like her arm is like a little noodle or anything. Ito is pretty nice. Has Gambler, which is gold runners in scoring position. Has high contact, but just not the best fielder in the world. You could get better. For 1 cost, a lot of people like to go Kanehara because of that S contact and that clinical and that setter. Really nice start at the beginning of the lineup for you if you need it. Bito is also really nice because has clinical, has rally if you need her later in the game. Also has pretty decent fielder at first base and third base, and pretty alright in the outfield with all C's. But with that 8 clutch and that rally and that 3 trajectory, you can pull some hits off pretty much any pitcher. But also has that clinical, so if you going up against the fastball pitcher, you can always rely on hitting for contact. And then probably the best pinch hitter in the game for cheap, you got Takeda. I would throw him in the backups like I have here. He is not officially in the lineup because of the way the moods work. He'll be set off by himself, so he'll be more likely to roll in extreme mood because he has that mood swinger. It'll help him a lot more if he's on pink than normal. But he has pinch, so if you pinch him in the game, he's going to get a boost. There's runners in scoring position, he's going to get that A boost. If the game's close, if he can win it, he's going to get Victor, Rally, Clutch, all those type of abilities. His power's not really the greatest, but once you get all those abilities activated, which those are very situational abilities, but pinching a hitter in is already a very situational thing in the first place, so a lot of these abilities you can pick out whenever you need them to activate, but he's just one of the best pinch hitters in the game, especially for 1 cost. He's pretty much a must-have on everybody's team. And then for no cost, you got Yabe, nice pinch runner, can come in the outfield in a pinch. A lot of people, whenever they'll let's say they'll have a plan if somebody gets on base later in the lineup, they'll have Yabe come in, and Yabe will come in the corner outfielder. He's a pretty nice corner outfielder. He doesn't drop too many balls, unlike what his catching says. Almost B fielding, B run speed. He can actually play like center fielder. Okay, I would say probably on the tier of like Koldberg, but mostly just a pinch runner, emergency outfielder. Can't really hit or anything, so yeah. But that's pretty much it for all the players we're gonna talk about. Of course, I showed you my team earlier and my lineup that I am going to be using for the next upcoming weeks unless I decide to make some changes. I also have another lineup that doesn't involve a fastball pitcher, just in case y'all want to see that, see what you can make whenever you go all in on your fielding and stuff like that. But I think this is a very, very nice lineup, hitting wise, and both slugging and contact hitting can go both ways. Also has plenty of pinch running options, pinch hitting options, but if you go to the pitchers, doesn't have one of the fastball pitchers, but has 2 pitchers that you can rely on to go out there and at least give a high PR person some trouble in Daigugetsu and Phoebus. Of course, have Kirill on there, and that makes the 40 cap right there. Of course, everything's all my opinion. If you see the cap go up, just upgrade some positions, probably. That's what I usually do. But yeah, I mean, that's it. I really appreciate y'all tuning in. Want to wish y'all good luck in all these qualifiers and everything. It's going to be a whole lot of fun this whole summer. Yeah, I can't wait to compete in mine. USA is set for September. I'm going to be competing in EPL, which got announced, so expect a lot of content through that. Of course, if you want to keep up with EPL, keep up with the USA eBaseball scene, make sure to check in the description, make sure to like and subscribe on my channel in the video, and make sure to join the Discord, the Power Pros World Discord, where you could talk to myself and a lot of other pro players that have played this game for a while and get some help on your team through there. It's Compass signing out. See ya.